And Jimmy Murphy here on, I guess what we'll call it, the first episode is entitled Murphy's Hockey Law. We were the National Hockey Now podcast, but now Murphy's Hockey Law is the name of this podcast. And our first guest on Murphy's Hockey Law, I'm psyched to have him on. I obviously worked with him for a while, head coach of the Boston Bruins, and now he is a Stanley Cup champion and head coach of the Vegas Golden Knights. Bruce Cassidy joining us. Butch, how you doing?
I'm good, Jimmy. I'm good. Thanks for asking.
But let's get right into it. I guess if you could go a year ago right now, where you are mentally, where you are, where's your life at, and and how much has it changed since then?
Well, I mean, things are great right now. Obviously, on the hockey side, you win a Stanley Cup, something everybody tries to do every year, and for a lot of their life, for that matter. Some are successful, some are not. Took me a while, so that part's going great. Family life is good. A little evil can be good sometimes if you come out of it on the right side, and I think our kids did. Julie did, so they love Vegas, and not just the. Everyone talks about the weather or the different climate out there, just the everyday life, the schools, hockey teams are on, baseball team, everything worked out well for them. They made a lot of new friends. So, yeah, I wouldn't have predicted this a year ago. You never know how it's going to shake out, but it's worked out well.
When you got to Vegas and you started to meet your players for the first time, and I guess what was the message you were trying to get across to them to kick things off?
Well, just getting to know them, as people. There was, don't forget the play. Like besides the players, coaching staff. I didn't really know a lot of our coaches. Two stayed in place. We hired two new ones. Kelly McCrimmon, the GM, I didn't never worked with, so there was a lot of newness with everybody. The medical staff, equipment guys. I mean, I knew one guy on the medical staff when I played baseball in Ottawa when I was 15 years old. I was the first baseman. He was the shortstop. He's the only guy I knew.
Wow,
So,
small world.
it was a small world. It was interesting, and he threw a lot of lousy balls over to first too, I might add. So, anyway, so the messaging with the players was getting to know them first and their families, and then as we went along, a little bit of, there was a couple of things that when I got hired that were brought to my attention by the GM and some players about how they thought they were getting away from. I don't know. I think when Pat Chiaretti left, he had a comment something about it being a little bit of a country club, and I don't know what his exact words were, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but there was a quote out there, and that was a
I
little bit
remember
of
that.
what I
Yep.
was. Yeah, I guess the way I took is they needed tightening up a little bit in their play and maybe their practice habits. So I think it's a very professional group. So I don't think it was anything off ice. I've never heard a word out of that in the 6 years in Vegas, according to the GM. But it's more just maybe their on ice play need to tighten up. Um, so that's what the message was. Listen, we're going to play a certain way. You're going to have some creativity, but you're going to be held to a standard away from the puck. And I think our guys bought in right away. I think they understood that they needed to correct some things. That's what usually happens, right? When you don't win for every team, and so that's what we did.
I know that one of the guys that you focused on that specifically with was Jack Eichel, and I remember reading that he was one of the first guys you reached out to, and also just making him realize how good of a two-way player he is, and to start to utilize that more. What did you think of his development? I mean, he's 26. I shouldn't say development, but his progress in that regard as the season went on. How did that go?
Well, Jack was very open. We sat down in Cape Cod area where I am in the summer, and he was going for a wedding. Um, so at the end of the day, it was about what did he want from me, and what was my expectation from him. So that was our first conversation. I thought it went really well. He'd come from Buffalo where they hadn't had a lot of success. He had friends with the Bruins. I know that he talked to, so he could get information on me. And off we went. And it was a little bit about, we used Bergeron as an example, and even Krejci as two-way players that still put up really good offensive numbers, but were good leaders the way they played a 200-foot game. So that's how we started, that what my expectation would be for him and all our centermen. It's a very important position in how we play defense. We play a zone system, as you know. It's a little different. So there's a lot of stress on the center. So that's how it started. I think from day one, Jack was good. We didn't have any problems all year. There's always a few discussions you have here and there about ice time or power play position, whatever, like you're going to have with any player. But
Right.
I can't say enough good things about Jack. He wanted to win. He wanted to play the right way all year, and he did.
It was, I mean, kind of both of you kind of get in a redemption story, so to speak. I mean, you look at all he went through in Buffalo, and it didn't end well there. So it was nice, I thought, to kind of see him come out and find, I guess you don't really lose your love for the game, but to start to feel that again, because let's not remember, let's not forget what he went through with that injury, Butch. He, from what I read, I mean, he didn't know if he was going to play again at some time, right?
Well, there was obviously issues there with his medical opinion and the Buffaloes. I know that much. I didn't delve too much into it. Once he had his surgery in Vegas, they allowed him to choose his doctor and his care. Um, I think that was a big thing for Jack. So yes, but he was, I don't want to say he was at a crossroads at 25 or 26 years old. I think that's unfair. He had lots of hockey in front of him, but he's starting to get to the point where I think he needed something really good to happen for him and his career in hockey to get back on track. And it happened for both of us, right? I mean, we're in the
Yeah.
same boat. When I met with him, I said, listen, we're tied together, Jack. We're coming in relatively new. There's expectations on us. He had been there a half a year, but he hardly played because of his injury, right? He came into the lineup
Mhm.
late in the year. So I almost looked
Yeah.
at it as we're both starting out together and we're in it together. So let's be successful together or we're going to fail together. You know what I mean? It's going to be
Yeah.
where, I think we're going to be in it together. So let's make sure we try to, communicate what, if something's going on and go from there. So that's how I approached it with Jack. And, he built his game all year and was arguably the best player in the playoffs. So good for him. I was real happy for him. He's a good guy. He's a good team guy. His
Mhm.
teammates love him, and he's a hardworking guy. So, like I said, I was happy and proud of the way he played.
You look at the goalie situation that you guys went through, and I mean, it really is astonishing to see how you came out of that and you win a Stanley Cup despite all the goalies you went through. What was that when you're in the midst of it and this guy gets hurt or this guy? What was that like for you as a coach?
Well, we always seemed to have one guy ready to go that was playing well, so that was the good part for a coach, right?
Uh-huh.
And there was some unknowns for sure. Logan Thompson goes into the year who finished well the year before, but hadn't played much hockey. A little bit like Swayman, right? How he came up that one year, and then he just took off at the start of the year. Unfortunately, got hurt. He was an all-star, so he was playing great. Aiden Hill we acquired. I knew nothing about. You got to give a lot of credit to Sean Burke, our goalie coach. A,
Hmm.
for the work he did with every goalie, but B, for identifying Aiden Hill. He had worked with him in Arizona a few years before, so he thought he'd be a good goaltender once we sat down for the type of system we were going to play. He's a big guy that wasn't overactive and good first save guy.
Hmm.
Good for Sean for identifying. We didn't know on Robin Leonard Murph at all. He had shoulder surgery in March. We thought he would play when I signed my contract. I thought he was going to play, and then he had hip surgery on double hip
Yeah.
surgery in August. So we're flying a little bit blind in that regard. But Logan, like I said, played well. Aiden had somewhat of a history in the league, and then you had Laurent Brossois, who'd been in the league, but was also recovering from hip surgery. So we had a lot going on there. But as the year went on, we just found a way. No matter what goalie played, Jonathan Quick was fantastic for us when he came over in terms of just
Yeah.
being a great teammate and a support guy for Aiden Hill. We used a young kid, Patera. So I think our system is goaltender friendly. I've said that many times when I was with the Bruins, and I'll say it here in Vegas that we really value that part of the game, how we
Hmm.
play. So I think that also helped the goaltenders kind of settle in. But ultimately, they're the ones that got to stop the puck. They got to make the saves when you need them, and they all did.
But as you get into the playoffs, sometimes a team will have that moment where you kind of know, all right, we might be on to something special here. We might be in the midst of a run. Was there was there one of those moments for you where you just sort of felt it and you said, this this could go deep?
Edmonton series. We won Game 5 at home. After there's a lot of stuff that happened at the end of Game 4. Petrangelo got suspended. Darnell
Hmm.
Nurse got suspended. It was a violent sort of series, and I think when we won Game 5 at home, I think we knew that we're getting close here. a really good team, and we got them on the ropes. And then we went in and dominated the second period at Edmonton in Game 6. So I think after that game, I'm like, you know what? There's only going to be 4 teams left. We're as good, if not better, than everybody. So I think our guys recognized it then that, hey, we just beat a pretty good hockey club that had a nice run the year before, lost to Colorado. They were getting closer, and then we could do it. I think that was it for me. Obviously, in the final, you start to get closer to the end. You feel like you're the better team, and I felt that way the whole time against Florida. So, but I would say the Edmonton series is what really gave us some juice.
All right, I'm going to ask you a kind of a crazy one here. If you can think back to 2019, the night before, the morning of Game 7 against the Blues, and then fast forward to how you were feeling right before Game 5 this year in the Stanley Cup Final with a chance to finally win that thing. Talk to me about the difference in feelings going on there.
Well, the 19 one's a long time ago, so I can't, it was so back and forth with St. Louis. It was my first go round really in the final. So like party is like, man, I'm in the Stanley Cup Final here. So you're not in awe of it. I'm not saying that at all, but you're a little more kind of taking a look at around, to see what's going on. And I honestly didn't feel nervous. I felt good about our team. We played a real good game in Game 6. If you remember, Bergie got up and addressed the guys and really got them ready to go. So, the tough part was Z's injury, playing through that. But at the end of the day, I felt good about our team. Tuukka had a great playoff, so there's no reason to think we couldn't win. So that's how I felt in the morning. The Florida one, there's just more of a sense that we're up 3-1. I felt, and they may say differently, but I felt we outplayed them all 4 games. So I felt we're going to outplay them that night. It's just a matter of, are we going to settle in and play, or how long is it going to take us? Because, it's a chance to win the cup. So your guys are going to be a little nervous. I don't care who you are. Maybe those teams that won 4 in a row in the 80s, the Islanders and Edmonton, they had a sense of calm. But I think most teams nowadays are a little bit edgy, especially at home with everything that's at stake. But I felt if we could settle down and play and not chase the game, that we were going to be just fine. And that's how it worked out. We got a big save early. We had a turnover, and then we settled in after that. So it's a bit of a different feeling. I just felt like this year it was ours. It was ours, and we're going to go get it. I think the year with St. Louis, it was such a back and forth series that both teams were playing good hockey. And had outplayed the other throughout the series, right? But this one, I felt we were the better team.
So there you're sitting on the bench, the time's winding down. What's going through your mind at that moment? Is there someone you're thinking back to, a parent, a coach? What's going through your mind as that moment's about to happen?
Well, I think it's like to me a photo reel of everything that's ever happened in hockey going through your head in 5 seconds, right? Like everything. You're a kid, you're dreaming. I'm on Coldry Avenue in Ottawa playing ball hockey, dreaming of winning the cup. There's a lot of different things. I am thinking of my parents who have passed away a number of years ago. That would have been cool if they could have saw that for all the time and effort they put in. I'm looking for my kids. Are they coming down? You know what I mean? There's just a lot going on. Then all of a sudden, there's 11 seconds left. I look up on the clock, and our bench is empty. And I'm like, we're going to get called for too many men here. Our whole team's on the ice celebrating. And there's still 10 seconds left in the game. I'm getting hugged by the trainers. I always shake hands with the coaches, right? Ryan Craig to my right and John Stevens at the left. I go to look for John, and I'm just swarmed that people are coming onto the bench. So I do remember that. It was like mayhem in a good way, right? Like everyone's so happy. So and then you're caught up and you're swept into it. You're on the ice, and such a great feeling the way it was spaced out that night. We played at 5:00, so it was still relatively early, and all the order of what we did after we won was kind of cool. You got to be with different groups of people all on the same night. So I thought that was one of the best takeaways as well.
And when you lift that cup for the first time there, what's that feeling like?
Well, again, it's similar to what you were like on the bench, right? So you're like, first of all, you're like, well, who's going to pass it to me? Because we don't know the order, right? I think the captain determines the order. So I'm just kind of waiting around, making sure I'm not, taking a bathroom break or something when it's my turn to get it, So I'm hanging around as close as I can. And then it's, like I said, that's obviously the best, right? Because we won at home. and there was
Yeah.
19,000 people, and you look around the building, right? It kind of did a full 360, and I don't think a person left. It was loud, and everyone's there, so you're kind of
That's
soaking
awesome.
it all in. And that's what, obviously we wanted to do in Boston, right? We had our home crowd game 7. It
Yeah.
didn't work out that way, but that was a pretty special feeling when everyone's still there and all the families are on the ice, and even all the, like, you don't always travel with all the people behind the scenes, but when you're at home, everybody that's involved in the team was out on the ice at some point. And I think
Mhm.
that's pretty cool because there is a hardworking group that, I see in my office, like when I go through the main offices every day, but that are behind the scenes guys. So it was, like I said, I thought it was the whole package of being on the ice, the trophy, just walking around doing some interviews with your family out there,
Yeah.
everyone else's families out there. It's pretty cool feeling.
Nice. And now you come back to Massachusetts with the cup and a great, charity event that you did there for your daughter's friend, and then you bring it down the Cape. What was that whole party like when you got to the Cape?
Well, it was a long day. We left at 6:30 to head to Milton for the Cassidy Murray Foundation. So that was a little bit of a different, like you always want to give back a little bit. I saw that years ago with the Bruins doing different charity events. So I thought
Hmm.
if I won, I would try to do something like that. So that was, we were able to help a family. And then going back to the Cape, it was, I had my family was in from Ottawa. They drove up Julie's from Jersey. So we had it in our backyard for a good 2 hours. We took pictures on the beach. We're right on the water. So we got some real good pictures with the dog running around with all the families. We're dressed up. We're not, we're in
Yeah.
casual. We tried to do different things. And then we put it out to the public at the Pompanesett Inn from 4 to 6 because I thought, when I was a kid, I was a 10 or 11-year-old kid, and the cup ever came to Ottawa, man, I thought that'd be the coolest thing to get a picture or go
Yeah.
take a look at it. So I was trying to do it both in Milton for some minor hockey teams around that area, Boston, and then do it for the people that were out here. So, and then we have a lot of friends here that we summer here, so we got to know a lot of people. And then we had a
That's great.
private party. That's for about 3 hours, and a good mix of group of people. I didn't want to have so many people there that that you don't have time to catch up. So um,
Right.
we invited some old Bruins that I've been in touch with. Ray Bork came with his son Chris. Bobby Orr came because he's right around the corner.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, Brian Noonan, an old friend of mine who'd won a cup with the Rangers. We had our neighbors from Winchester were up. Joe Sacco, Kevin Dean, and Kim Brandvold, who was on our staff in 19, were able to make it up. So I thought, like we went through a tough time, obviously not winning. So, I was glad they were able to make it up, and then our family. So, like I said, it was big enough that it was a nice party, but not so big that it felt like you weren't able to talk to everybody there. So that was probably the best part of the night.
Now, you were talking about when the cup would come down, had you ever been able to be around the cup when you were a kid or no?
No, never. I had the extra guys in 2011 with the
Hmm.
Bruins when they won. So I was in Vancouver with the team. I went on the ice. I lifted it on the ice. I was one of the, they were getting ready to sweep up and turn the lights out, and I got my turn with it though eventually. So, um, so that was cool, but it's not the same as being right in the trenches. So at the
Yeah.
end of the day, I
Yeah.
was around it. Went to I think I was on the duck boat parade, so I was on our duck boat for a bit. So that's the closest I'd been to it. I'd never seen it other than the Hall of Fame. So never as a kid, no.
I'll tell you, Butch, my daughter, so she was born 2011, a couple weeks after the Bruins won it. And a month later, she was sitting in the cup. They gave us a day to take pictures with it at the Garden. And then a year later, a friend of mine was on the Kings staff. He was a scout. So they won it. He brought it back. She was in the cup again, all within the first year of her life.
Oh
She
no.
got to see. I said,
Well,
I don't
that's
think
kind of
many.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
she'll never
nobody's going to be
remember,
able
but
to
you
claim
will. You will.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she sees the pictures now. She loves it. So, before I let you go,
Can you
Bruce.
imagine? Can you imagine all the people who have been in that cup? Like how many babies
Oh
and
my gosh.
dogs and cats? You know what I mean? Like think of. I wonder
Yeah,
what else has been there, like geckos or pet lizards, or you know what I mean? I wonder who's the most creative guy out there. It'd be interesting to hear.
yeah. And some of the stories. I mean, I remember. I think it was somebody was telling me up in Montreal one year the Canadians won it, and one of the players must have had a place down on the St. Lawrence River there, right on the river. And I don't know, like about 10 o'clock at night, somebody calls them police and says, You might want to get the Stanley Cup. It's floating down the river. And it's just floating. It was floating down the river. There's some crazy stuff that's happened with it from what I hear. So
yeah, it was
no,
not at our place. We were pretty quiet. We were very
I was going to
responsible.
say no
Jack
dents.
Eichel was getting it next. No, Jack was getting it the next day, so I wanted to make sure that he had his day and everything was in order. So yep.
That's great. Well, I mean, hey, look, it's never too early to look ahead to next year, Coach. You look at your team right now as it's constituted. What do you like about it? What do you like about a chance of potentially repeating?
Well, we have player that played in the finals for us is returning, with the exception of Riley Smith. He got traded to Pittsburgh, and that's just modern day economics, right? We were up
Yeah,
against the cap. We were able to re-sign Barbashev, who we traded for at the deadline, Aiden Hill, who's a free agent, and our only restricted free agent was Brett Howden. So we were able to get all three of those guys signed and under the cap. Unfortunately, Riley was a bit of a victim of just numbers. He played really
yeah,
well for us, was an original misfit. So you hate to see that happen, but that's part of it. So we have everyone coming back, and Logan Thompson will be healthy, so he will slide in with Aiden Hill. I mean, Jonathan Quick, I shouldn't say that he's going to the Rangers, but and a couple of guys that didn't play or remain unsigned. I don't know how that'll work out. Like Phil Kessel, I'm not sure what's going to happen with Phil, but at the end of the day, all the guys that played are back, so you feel good about that. Hopefully, that's motivation for those guys to get back to the same feeling. And sometimes that works against you. You need new blood. So we'll see how it works out. But I'm happy to have the guys. It's a great group. I think we're at a good age group. I remember when I went to Vegas, Jimmy, everyone said, "Oh, you're an old team." And I was like, I don't think we're that old. And we have a good mix of different ages. We have a few older
yeah.
guys, but nothing crazy. So a lot of our guys we rely on are younger guys or middle, I should say middle of their career guys. So they got lots of good years left. But anyway, I like what's coming back, and we should have as good a chance as anybody. But as you know, there's a lot that goes into it, injuries, and once you get in, you never know what's going to happen. So it's a long ways away, but I like our starting point, that's for sure.
And I guess too, what I'd ask about the coming season is you went through it a bit. Obviously, you didn't win it that year, but you went all the way to Game 7 of the Cup Final. If you go back, how did you try to prepare the guys coming back? To not have that so-called Cup hangover, or to kind of it's a wear and tear, and it takes a while to come down and then get ramped up. All of a sudden, you have to get ramped up again. How did you take care of that with the Bruins, and how do you plan on doing it here with the Knights?
Well, with the Bruins, it was basically unfinished business. We talked about that from the first day of training camp. Like, listen, we went all the way, and we won 15 games. You need 16, so we certainly know we're capable of it. And I honestly think that's the one. I wouldn't call it regret because there was a COVID stop, but the next year in 20 with the Bruins, I thought we had as good a chance of winning it as anybody.
Yep.
We were playing really well. We were on top of the league, and we were healthy, and we had good chemistry. And that was kind of, when looking back, like, really sucked for us, that year
Yeah.
with the league stopping. And I know there's a lot going on in the world, and I understand why we stopped, but it's just too bad for us as a team, because I thought, we were going to get it done. I just felt that way. But at the end of the day, that didn't happen. And then the message this year will be a little bit of building off. We talked about building our game all year, so we're peaking at the right time. It'll be more of that messaging, because I thought we did a good job with that. We got off to a real good start last year. That helps everybody when there's a new coach. And so that'll be a little bit about, hey, our start and building our game. And I will ask some questions I haven't yet of other coaches about how they ran their training camps coming off, like John Cooper. I'll have a chat with him eventually here, because we haven't completely scripted camp yet. We'll get around to that here soon, but we've got a couple months. But those will be some of the conversations I'll have. And then I'll ask the players themselves, Jimmy. I mean, Petrov's won before, Barbashev's won before, Martinez has won 3 times. So a little bit about their experiences and get feedback from them as well.
Nice. You look at, what was I going to tell you? You were talking about that team in 2022. I'm with you. I mean, I remember when you guys coming off the ice in Philly, I think it was the last game, right before COVID hit. It was like a Tuesday night game, I want to say. And yeah, I just remember, talking to my buddy and my friends. this team's really good. Like there was like a sense that you guys were on a mission at that point, and then yeah, you're right. It just everything got halted. So who knows what would have happened?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, we had unfinished business. We had that attitude all year, and I felt like I said, good things were going to happen. But as I that's hockey sometimes, and unfortunate for us.
Yeah, I hear. Well, listen, Coach, I hope you get some more downtime this summer and enjoy the Cape. And I'll hope to see you around the rinks next season.
All right, Jimmy. Good luck with everything.
I
Appreciate you
appreciate
having
it.
me on.
Oh, of course.
Thank you,
Our
Bruce.
pleasure. All right. Bruce Cassidy joining us here on Murphy's Hockey Law. I'm Jimmy Murphy. He's Blake Thorne. We'll talk to you next week.